Good evening. Welcome to Oconee County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, March the 3rd. After a moment of silence, we're going to ask Commissioner Harden to lead us in the pledge. Please stand. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business will be to approve the agenda.
Make a motion.
That's right. Just on item 5, when we're talking about the zoning matters, we're going to take number 6 as our first zoning case and then work our way down. With that, I ask for a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Now is the opportunity for any statements and remarks from citizens. This is anything not on tonight's agenda. Any statements or remarks from commissioners? A few announcements. SPLOST 2027 is up on our May ballot. Our website is up and running. If you want to go look at some of the projects and the breakdown of it, we encourage you to do that. March 11th, the waste and recycling sites will open up at 1 p.m. instead of their normal time. All staff will be training on CPR and stop the bleed training during that first half of the day. I have to announce the Keep Oconee County Beautiful Commission received the 2025 Governor's Circle Award again. So congratulations to that group. Also, we're going to have a town hall meeting on the 26th of this month at 6 o'clock here in this room. This will be an emergency medical services focused. We're going to kind of talk about our current service and some changes that could be coming and try to get some input on that. The next item will be to approve the minutes from February 3rd and February 10th.
Make a motion, we approve those as submitted.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Now we're going to move into our hearing and actions on zoning matters. The rezone petition shall be presented by the county staff with no time limit. The applicant and those signed up to speak for the petition shall be allowed a total of 20 minutes, less the applicant's reserved for rebuttal. And those signing up to speak against the petition shall be allowed a total of 20 minutes. The public comment shall then be closed, and the Board of Commissioners will have an opportunity to ask questions. Then the board shall take action as set out in the Unified Development Code. With that, we'll call our first case, which is Special Use P25-0228, Oconee Medical Properties, LLC. This is a special use approval for a contractor's office, showroom, warehouse, corporate area with limited outdoor storage within a privacy fenced area. This is 5.014 acres at 1691 Jimmy Daniel Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, again, this is special use P25-0228 Oconee Medical Properties, LLC, applicant and owner. It's parcel C01006A, currently zoned AG in the Regional Center Character Area. And again, the request is for a special use approval for a contractor's office, showroom, warehouse, corporate area with limited outdoor storage within a privacy fenced area. This is the recorded plat in your application packets, the original concept plan that was submitted with the application, the revised concept plan showing some increased buffers and restrictions on roll-up doors and parking areas. These are architectural images submitted with the application. And staff recommends conditional approval with our 3 standard conditions. Number 4, all outdoor storage must be located in a side or rear yard and must be screened from public streets and residential districts by an opaque imitation wood vinyl fence or freestanding wall no less than 12 feet in height. Number 5, no required parking spaces, required landscape area, or any other required site element shall be used for outdoor storage. Number 6, service areas and dumpsters shall be visually screened from public view by a 6-foot masonry wall with facade materials matching the exterior of the principal structure with black painted metal steel enclosure doors. Enclosure doors made of wood or chain link are prohibited. This site shall have no access to Silverleaf Road. The total building square footage shall not exceed 20,000 square feet as shown on the concept plan dated February 23rd, 2026. All loading areas shall be screened by an opaque imitation wood vinyl fence or freestanding wall not less than 8 feet in height. And to mitigate the impacts to adjacent established residential uses, the site shall observe the following hours of operation, including receiving of deliveries and use of the warehouse area. Weekdays from 8 a.m. 7 p.m., Saturdays 8 a.m. 7 p.m., Sundays 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. The Planning Commission recommended approval with the same conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken, did you want to go first or just go down the list?
Mr. Griffith would like to go first if it suits the commission. Thank you.
Again.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for allowing us to speak on behalf of our project. As we've kind of talked through in the last few days, Tim and I started Oconee Medical Properties in 2011. We are a small business with a small local team. Tim's wife, Missy, works in the office with us, writing checks and helps with books. We have another lady, Ashley, that helps us as well. My wife is here tonight in support of our project, but she and I decided a long time ago not to work together if we want to stay married. So thank you for coming. We've owned this site since 2014. You know, we've looked at a couple of other options to do with it, none of which were very welcomed, I guess, by the neighborhood. But we just thought this might be a good use. Our goal was to kind of tuck the building in the center of the 5 acres. We do not intend to take down any more trees than we absolutely have to get the building in. We're not a retail business. We don't need visibility. We're just looking for a place to work. And store some, you know, leftover materials. Our team, we self-perform our concrete work. So we have some little whirlybirds that kind of like a 0-turn lawnmower, that type thing that would be kept when they weren't working, some screeds, and then like some leftover materials, like a few interior doors, you know, maybe a few metal studs. But I mean, typically all of our materials are shipped straight to the job, whatever project that we're working on. We don't keep any materials on hand other than just a few leftovers. After we kind of have heard a little feedback, Ken went back and revised the plan and tried to increase buffers to try to accommodate, you know, some of the input that we've heard in an attempt basically to be good neighbors. Like I said earlier, we're not looking to cut down any more trees than possible than we have to. In fact, we'd like to put a gate at the end of the driveway so people can't just randomly come in. You know, it'd be our guys would have a clicker or something available to get in and out. We've tried to offer and meet with some of the neighbors, some of which we've had good response and we've talked to or met with or shared our plan with. We've attempted to send it out through some of the neighbors to their listserv. I don't have access to that. So the first attempt we made, I think, went to the Julian Drive side maybe and didn't get to the Silverleaf side, but we've tried to make attempts to talk and explain as we're doing tonight what our intents are. We've basically been building and developing in Oconee for about 15 years. We've tried really hard to bring positive projects to the county, a lot of which is medical, which of course is in our name, Oconee Medical. And we've worked with Piedmont, we worked with St. Mary's, we worked with countless other independent docs, and have continued to have a good relationship with them. So I think we could walk into anybody's practice now or business that we built for them, you know, and we still have good relationships. We also use local subcontractors. As I mentioned, we self-perform our own concrete and flat work and some of our site work. We do our own plumbing. As far as electrical and mechanical, our primary subs there are Oconee County residents and Oconee County businesses. So just kind of wanted to mention that. And at the end of the day, we just ask that you would support us and support our project. And thank you for your time. We're going to let Ken speak. He's a little better with the technicalities.
I don't know about that, but we'll see. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. I'm Ken Bell, Bell and Company, and we've prepared the zoning documents that you'll be acting on this evening. When we attended the planning commission meeting, some of the people waiting to get in the room caught me and had some questions and asked us if there were certain things that we could look at to change the plan to make it better. And I told them that we would do everything that we could. We're limited by what the code says that we have to do and what the environmental health department says that we have to do. But there are some things that we did have the opportunity to tweak and make the plan into a better plan than the one that was presented to the Planning Commission. I want to thank the Planning Commission, but I also want to thank Guy Herring and his department for the favorable recommendation of approval of this special use permit. And I would like to just mention a few of the modifications that we've made to the plan to make it be what we think is a better plan. The building is, as Gavin said earlier, the building, we made an attempt to put that in the center of the site. And we've added some dimensions around the building to better show the planning staff and anyone that looks at the plan about what those distances really are. And so on the current plan, the back of the building is actually more than 100 yards from the nearest house on the adjoining properties. And the front of the building is right at 100 yards from the right of way. We've also enlarged the rear buffer. We've doubled the size of the rear buffer. Previously, it was 50 feet. We're now showing it at 100 feet. And we've also done some detailed landscape sketches about how a portion of even that 100-foot buffer, we're going to come in and add evergreen trees and shrubs toward the building side of that 100-foot buffer, and then not start any grading until right near where the building itself is going to go. We're not, as was mentioned before, the owners don't want to take down any more trees than is absolutely necessary to get the building to fit in there. So that just means the area of the building plus enough room to grade the site so we can make it positive drain toward the front of the property where the storm drainage will be located. Also, on the earlier version of the plan, we had illustrated two septic tank drain fields to satisfy Oconee County's environmental health department regulations. And one of the people that attended the meeting asked if we might possibly be able to relocate those. So on this latest version of the plans, we have relocated both of those. Only one of them requires the trees to be removed, and that would be the one where they install the septic tank. The other one is just a reserve, just in case that first system ever fails and has to be relocated. Then really on every lot for the last 25 years, you've had to have two septic tank drain fields, a primary and a backup drain field. So we moved both of those to the front of the building. Guy mentioned 12 to 18 comments. We have no problems with any of those conditions that were written up as recommendations, incorporated into his recommendation of approval. We also, on the latest version, drew a red line on the plan to represent a cross section of the property, and then showed the relationship of the building and the relationship of the elevation of the floor of the building to the elevation of Silverleaf Drive. And between Silverleaf Drive and the building, we had incorporated a 25-foot landscape buffer, which starts at the property line and goes toward the building. And then on the outer edge of that 25-foot buffer would be where we would place that 8-foot fence that was a condition of the rezone request. So at that cross-section point, if you happen to be standing in the street, you would be looking and seeing the 8-foot fence, and the building itself is set down 10 feet lower than the bottom of that fence. So we're of the opinion that by keeping the trees along with that 8-foot fence, you won't even be able to see the building from Silverleaf Drive. And with the buffer in the back that we've recommended with the 100-foot buffer with additional evergreen planting, we're of the opinion that you won't be able to see the back of the building either. That is all that I have. I'm certainly to take questions from anyone that has any questions, but we would humbly request approval of this special use permit. Thank you very much.
John Mills.
Good evening. My name is John Mills. I live at 1050 Colorado Bend. I'm one of the Silverleaf neighbors. And I'm here not because I love the idea of developing the property, the 5 acres out the front of my neighborhood, but I'm here because I think it's what's needed to do what's right. These men own this property. They've owned it for over 10 years. They bought it back in around 2015, 2016. And at that point, I was hot to oppose what they tried to do. Back in 2005, there was a proposal to build retail lots done by Mr. Sumner. We've got the drawings, y'all might have them from the past, but it was over 40,000 square feet of retail / office medical space, something of the sort, with over 150 parking spots. That didn't go in 2005. It was then sold to this group, and they tried to do it in 2016 or so. That was opposed. All the neighborhoods teamed up, and we were strong because at that point in time, the number of buildings, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 buildings spotted around in a circle, like on a U, coming in on this tiny little driveway. And obviously there's safety risks there, tons of a serious impact on use, very, very intensive use. And we would lose the rural character of our entryway, which we own about 15 feet that comes to a point where it's like no feet. Once you get into the neighborhood, but the roadway is about 15 feet wide. And so our entryway right now is all wooded. It's gorgeous. It's great. We got trees on one side and trees on the other. And on this side, we own that thin little strip. And what they were trying to do was cut all that back, clear cut it, and then install these buildings and then have an office park at the front entrance of our neighborhood. And so I was 100% opposed to that and helped to facilitate making sure, or doing our best to make sure that didn't happen. But what they've come to y'all with tonight is something different. And I stand here, I've been on the board and lived in this neighborhood since 2012, I looked it up. 2012, I've lived in the neighborhood, been on the board for almost that entire time. And we had a meeting last week that was hostile. I've never seen one like it. And when I tried to share what I learned about what they proposed to do and the words I got in writing from these owners, I was attacked and not able to even share what they were saying they're trying to do because these other people said, oh, well, we know they're bringing in these big trucks with all this equipment and bringing in steel beams, and they're going to litter the road with nails. And they scared the 30 homeowners or so that were in 30 homes that were represented by this meeting that we had. We have 80 in our neighborhood, and there's about 30 owners. Usually you don't get full participation at an HOA meeting, but there's about 30. It was our annual meeting. It wasn't noticed to come attack this situation because the board had in fact agreed that we weren't going to take a position because the board was split 2-2. 4 board members, 2 opposed it, and 2 were in favor of it. And we couldn't come to terms. And so the goal was we're just going to go share the information and let the owners individually decide what they want to do and act as individuals because the board wasn't unified. Well, I got removed, and that's okay. Because now I can stand here in my personal place and say what I think is right. These guys came to the table and tried to do something that's fair. And my house is on Colorado Bend, and I back up to 20 acres owned by Miss Higginbotham. She's the widow of the guy that built the property. She owns this 20 acres that's right next to this 5 acres. And the reason why I think this is a good project is because I can only hope and pray that when she develops that property or sells it to the next guy that develops the property, is that they are that respectful that they're going to put a 100-foot buffer on the back edge next to the residential. They're going to tree the front line to make sure that it's not this big commercial office park or strip mall that goes along Jimmy Daniel Road. And what happened at the meeting was basically the people that are opposed to it, and they're here, and they've been my neighbors for a long time. And this is difficult, but my opinion is you stand for what's right. And sometimes it's hard to do. I don't want to be here. I don't want to oppose my neighbors I care about. But at the end of the day, what's fair is fair. And these folks are trying to do something that's fair. They're developing property in a way that I think has minimal impact on the neighborhood. We're not going to be able to see Silverleaf Road, the preservation of that, I think has been a key target. I talked to them about one thing that Ken didn't mention is on the prior plan that they submitted to the planning commission, there was there was going to be a garage door on the side of the building that faced Silverleaf Road. There was going to be a parking area with a fenced in area. And what that did is encroach or minimize the space that we could keep the existing tree buffer. It's not mine to keep, but that they could keep the existing tree buffer to prevent us from being able to see the road. And one of the changes that they made was to completely do away with any access to the building on that side, do away with the doors, do away with the fenced in area, which then allows for this at the smallest spot you can see on this drawing is 88 feet from their property boundary to the edge of the building. Before I think it was like the 25 foot, they were going to clear up to the 25-foot buffer that's there now, because previously they had said it was going to be 15. And so they've tried to increase the buffer on the Silverleaf side, they did increase the buffer. They increased the buffer on the backside to 100 feet to protect the neighbors in the backside. This building is going to be enclosed by trees. And I don't know of any other use that's better than this one. There's all this talk about, industrial, commercial development, and whether or not we can believe these guys about what they say, how they do business. Well, I've seen how they do business, and it's the same thing that we're hearing tonight. They're not going to have these big delivery trucks coming and going with steel beams. They're not going to be, and when we talk about that, if we just look at this driveway, who builds a warehouse, a 20,000 square foot warehouse, if they're intending to take large deliveries with a curved driveway? That's just insane, because that's not what they're trying to do. Who builds a big warehouse intending for deliveries without a circular drive so maybe they can drive around the building? If we look at this, just the mechanics of this lot and how they're trying to develop it isn't intended for heavy, definitely not industrial, or major bringing in tons of trucks and trailers or delivery trucks of multiple times a day. And at our meeting, there's all this talk about, oh, we're not going to be able to turn out of our neighborhood because of all the delivery trucks. And when I asked Gavin about, okay, tell me about how many employees are coming, who's delivering product or who's delivering things to the storage area, how many car trips, he said it's less than 10 car trips a day. That's a lot less. I've had cameras up at the front of our entrance once time before, and we have a lot of car trips, and it's not 10, it's like 10 hours every couple of minutes, 10 cars every couple of minutes. And so, but I think when we look at this plan, it's not intended for this, what we're going to hear about in these concerns from the HOA or from people that are purporting to act on behalf of the HOA isn't the reality. And I think people are scared about what a $20,000 square foot building sounds like. But when we look at what they're trying to do with it, it's a small office for a small local company. They're going to store some equipment in there. And I believe that we can rely on the representations, particularly when we look at if they had made a circular driveway and we knew that in a straight driveway coming in off Jimmy Daniel Road, I think they'd be planning for something different. But the way that they plan this, I believe it's consistent with what they're going to, with what they are saying that they're trying to do. And I think it's important to note that you're going to hear from somebody today that says they act on behalf of all of Silverleaf, and that's not true. I've given him notice that he doesn't have authority to act on my behalf, and he doesn't have authority to act on others that have opposed the position that the HOA is taking. And there's no doubt that there was a vote, but that vote wasn't noticed. That vote wasn't told to the 80 people that live in there, hey, we're going to take a position and you need to make your position known. We were there to set a budget. We were there to elect the board. There were some people that got excited. They say a bunch of things. And at the end of the day, somebody from the back said, hey, I moved to do this. And people got excited and said, yeah, let's do it. But that's not how boards work. That's not what's in the covenants. It's not what's in the bylaws. There's no authority for that individual to act on behalf of the association because he doesn't act for all of us. Now, there was a majority vote without a doubt, and they voted to oppose it. I question that a little bit because I was never given the opportunity, and these guys were never given the opportunity. They offered to come, but there's no way that that was going to be a good idea given the amount of opposition. And so we didn't invite them to come to the meeting and speak. And there was not a fair opportunity to sort of share the other side other than the people that just had opinions in their heart based on what they thought was going to happen. And so, you know, I stand for what's right and fair and just ask that y'all, obviously you got the same obligation. And is this a fair use of that property under the special use permit, and I think it is. And I can't think of another type of development. You know, there's been suggestions of let's build a big house there. But I don't know who's building a house on Jimmy Daniel Road. That's not what Jimmy Daniel is structured for. And I'm most confident that any house on Jimmy Daniel Road is going to be more imposing and more intensive a use than what this building's going to be. Thank you.
How much time we got left? One. Ken, there's only 1 minute left. You want to stay that for rebuttal? We have one other person signed up to speak. Okay. All right, now we'll move on to those signed up to speak against. Willard Smith. You want to speak? Okay. Can't read the first name, last name, Bone? No. Oscar? Come on up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Oscar Gertz. I live at 1021 Bob White Court. I am a resident of the Silverleaf subdivision, and I've just been recently elected as the treasurer of the board. So to start off, just to, I guess, comment on some of the statements that Mr. Mills has made. You know, the meeting was noticed. This was a specific agenda item, and those who wanted to speak in regard to that were invited to. A motion was passed and the resolution was adopted, and everybody that was present passed the resolution to oppose it. I'm speaking to you as an individual. And in terms of this, you know, I object to Mr. Mills's characterization of the meeting. It was not hostile. There was discourse back and forth. Order was restored, was implemented in the meeting. He just didn't like the way that the meeting went. Any attempt, I think, by this organization to contact the board, it seems that Mr. Mills is the only person that was contacted, because I, as an individual and resident, didn't receive any notice of this until one of our other members said, hey, there's a Board of Commissioners meeting on this issue. That was the first that we were aware of it, and then the community mobilized around it. You know, Mr. Mills' statements about, 10 trucks, this, we can't know and govern the use after the approval. So any talk about how many trucks or how many people or whatever is purely speculative. And the bottom line for this is that this is an end run around zoning. That's what it is. Because zoning specifically prohibits this use in this area. We're standing for what's right, what's fair, and what's also in the rules and regulations. Simply put, again, this use is prohibited because this use is not allowable by right or by approval from a special use permit. The relevant section of the zoning code, section 20706, says any principal use not shown on the following table 2.1 is shown in a zoning district, whether by right or with approval as a special use, is specifically prohibited. One of those uses that they want to use, and they mention it's a warehouse. A warehouse is not permitted unless it's zoned OBP or industrial. There are no special use permits that permit it. Simply, bottom line. And this is what they're trying to do. Put a warehouse in and put it under the guise that a special use permit should allow it. It's not allowed under the zoning. Sure, go ahead, redo the zoning, go through that process, and then make your proposal to do it. But as of today, it is not permitted. Why is it not permitted? Zoning laws and regulations are there for a purpose. To maintain property values, to maintain uses that are compatible with those things that are around them. What is around this proposed use? There's multiple residential areas. There's a residential corridor that goes from Silverleaf and Creekside all the way down to Jennings Mill Country Club. It's residential. School buses, kids, the majority of our neighborhood and some of Creekside are elderly. There's people that are driving on those roads that are turning. There's teenage drivers that are coming in and out of those neighborhoods. What they're asking to do is to put a commercial warehouse, having trucks going in and out right there at an entrance to a neighborhood. It is literally 10 feet from the entrance to Silverleaf. So this continuous traffic, trucks, those are concerns for the residents. Those are concerns for me. I've got 2 teenage drivers. I know some of my neighbors are elderly. There is a deceleration lane that comes into the entrance of the neighborhood. We had AT&T workers putting in fiber and they were parked in there, and it was difficult to see trucks that are coming, vehicles that are coming down Jimmy Daniel Road. I'm worried for my kids and people are flying. In addition, you've got anticipated congestion for 316, the Jimmy Daniel expansion, the overpass that's coming up. We have concerns, about noise, about lighting. I know there's been things that are said, but also this use, provides some environmental impacts that are not consistent with agriculture or residential surroundings. And again, this is proposed to be right there at the entrance of the Silverleaf subdivision. The zoning that's proposed, or the special use that proposed, again, changes the zoning to OBP zoning, which is one of the higher and most intense uses in the zoning that you have. And again, looking at the allowable uses that you have, it's not low intensity, it's a high intensity use. And warehouse is the primary thing that they're using it for. Warehouse and outdoor storage, both which are uses that are not compatible to be right next to a residential community. There are other reasonable alternatives. There's some property further down Jimmy Daniel that is already zoned OBP. That's available. I mean, they've had their projects, they've had their storage, they've had their offices in their previous building, all their other previous projects, they've had their office and storage and things on those properties. And when the project is done, then they close it up and move it. So why can't that continue instead of putting this use right next to 2 residential communities? So again, this is just an attempt to circumvent zoning. It's not allowed by special use permit or by right. And I mean, we're concerned, I know residents, I am concerned about property values. Who wants to live in a neighborhood where there's a warehouse and this right at the entrance of the neighborhood? You can't guarantee you're not going to cut trees. They've said, we're going to try to minimize it. We're going to try to do things, but if something happens and you have to do it, they're going to do it. So for those reasons, I'm opposed to this project going forward. We ask you to deny it. Thank you.
Bob Hayes.
Gentlemen, my name's Bob Hayes. I also live in Silverleaf. And there isn't really anything emotional about what I look at. I only looked at the code, the unified code. And when I looked at the code, it really talks to what requirements the Board of Commission is, which is 1208. It says that your decision is supposed to be based on 1207 and the criteria for this and for this AG area. It also talks about having an impact analysis done based on the criteria of 1207. I haven't seen anything that would indicate that there's been anything other than a talk and discussion about what we've done to change, what we've done to modify, but I haven't seen anything that would indicate there's actually been an analysis of the criteria that's in 1207 for the special use and what's allowed. within the code 1203, it talks about if you're going to go forth for a special use or a rezoning, it requires the question to be asked and answered, is this property properly zoned? I would say that this property is properly zoned right now. So how do we get out of that and start looking at a special use if we've not looked at that first question? How do we get from 1203 down to 1207 for a special use to start this process to begin with? I don't see how we got there. If we look at the criteria, and if you look at it line by line, there's no criteria in there that's going to allow for a functioning warehouse in a commercial or in a non-commercial area that's wholly residential. So I would ask each of you, has there been an analysis done? And what did that analysis look like? Did it look at all of the criteria in 1207? I oppose this. I don't see any way that this should be approved under any circumstances for the safety, for the very things that Oscar's talked about, for all of the kids, for all the families that live there. There's going to be an impact at that intersection because we're going to be unable to see when we turn left or right outside of Silverleaf. This does not make sense. After that, if you got any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I oppose this. Thank you for your time.
Tommy Jones.
Good evening, Shami Jones. Sorry, I'm a little shorter than the last. I am a 21-year resident of Silverleaf, moved here in 2004, and I'm coming to you. I sent all of you a video today that I took driving down, probably not the safest thing to do, but driving down Jimmy Daniel, where that property has the access. And if you could see from that, there's maybe a foot before the decel lane starts. And I'm just not sure how a road could be planned because they're going to need access to the property. So I'm guessing the deceleration lane would have to be extended, which then would mean we would have to share the decel lane with traffic turning right into that property. So I drove around developing areas of the county, mostly in our area. I couldn't find a single location where a neighborhood's main entrance or sub entrance had to share with a functioning warehouse and delivery trucks. I can only assume that with a building that's putting in 4 roll-up doors and outside storage, they're going to have materials to store. They're going to have to get there, and they're going to have to be loaded into the building and unloaded at some point if they're ever going to be used again. And so there will be trucks delivering materials. There will be trucks leaving with materials. So not certain where the trucks are going to park to get the items to and from. And I have huge concerns about the decel lane and sharing it with a residential neighborhood and a commercial property. I just ask you to consider that. Our population in the neighborhood is aging. It is not easy to see out of there now, and it's going to be even more difficult to discern which cars are slowing down to turn in the neighborhood, which cars are slowing down to turn 10 feet earlier into the property. Just ask you to consider that when you make your decision. Thank you.
Jim Jones.
Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Jim Jones, and I'm a resident of Colorado Bend in Silverleaf. I come to respectfully ask that you decline the special use permit. As stated earlier, you as a county have looked at this property multiple times through the years, and each time it was deemed non-compatible, going next to a residential property, and the property being that close to Silverleaf and that short entry lane that comes into the property. In my humble opinion, a 20,000 square foot warehouse for a construction company, whether it's a development company or construction company, that has 4 large roll-up doors, another 5,000 square feet of outdoor storage space, is not compatible as well. Whether the intent today or down the road, the best use of that building is to bring in flatbeds with large materials, which is the entire reason you have 4 large roll-up doors. I was specifically told last month that there would be periodic flatbeds bringing materials that are staging materials before a development or leftover materials after the development. Whether that's, steel beams and piping or construction vehicles, I don't know. But I was specifically told several flatbeds periodically would be coming in with staging and leftover materials. And so I think it was also mentioned tonight, the intent, because of the way the driveway is shaped, is a positive. I think the intent, and again, the best use of a building like that with 4 large roll-up doors, and again, another 5,000 square feet of outdoor storage, is exactly what somebody would assume it is. It's going to be a high use for construction materials. So again, I would respectfully ask that you decline this special use permit on this piece of property. Thanks.
David Bell.
Commissioners, I'm David Bell. I also live in the residential area we're talking about. When we moved here 9 years ago, it was suggested in Georgia, expects you to do due diligence on the property that we bought. We did that, had an inspection done, septic tanks checked out, et cetera. And we were given a copy of the HOA covenant. And we've abided by that HOA covenant for the 9 years. And it seems to me that OVP either didn't do their due diligence, and or now they're trying to circumvent what is required and what has currently been zoned. But simply put, that warehouse, that size of a project is not compatible adjacent to, next to a residential area. We've been concerned about the truck traffic, and several of us contacted the builders, the people who are proposing to put this in there, and asked them about the level of truck traffic. And the comment that we got back was, quote, typically none, maybe an occasional Amazon or UPS delivery. And yet when you look at the property proposal with 4 or 5 open bay doors, it's just simply not credible. And they talk about putting miscellaneous materials, doors, studs, sheetrock, et cetera. Again, that's got to be more than UPS drivers coming in there with that particular equipment and then storing it in a 5,000 square foot area. Commissioners, please don't grant this. I believe this would set a bad precedent, and we'd be on a slippery slope in that whole neighborhood in the area there on Jimmy Daniels if this goes through. Please don't approve this. Thank you.
Wanda Hayes. Justin.
Hello, and thank you for hearing us. My name is Wanda Hayes. I live at 1201 Colorado Bend in Silverleaf, and I have lived there for 15 years. I am also a co-owner of a cottage in the Creekside Cottages with my mother. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's pretty much an elderly section of Creekside. I echo mostly what has already been said. I really hope that you will oppose this. It is not, having a warehouse next to a residential area is not compatible. There's definite safety concerns about turning in and out. As Shami Jones mentioned, the deceleration lane there, it's difficult now as you start to turn out. As trucks and things will be coming and going from there, it's going to be extremely difficult to see, and safety is probably one of my biggest concerns. I am terrified that someone will get seriously injured or killed trying to just get in and out of a neighborhood. So I ask that you not grant this. It's from the code. It sounds like it's the special use is not something that this is a special use for. So I ask that you decline this offer. Thank you.
Harold Thompson.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Harold Thompson, and our family lives at, excuse me, 1100 Silverleaf Road, and our home backs up to the agricultural property at 1691 Jimmy Daniel. We're opposed to the special use application from Oconee Medical, and while we appreciate the accommodations that were incorporated into the revised concept plan over the past month, they don't mitigate the reasons for my opposition. The 25,000 square foot facility that's combined office space, warehouse, and storage does not belong on agricultural property adjacent to 3 residential neighborhoods. In my view, it does not meet the criteria in the Unified Development Codes under special use construction because it's not compatible with other uses, nearby residential properties in this case, that are permitted in a zoning district. I would also point out in the code under parking and loading and outdoor storage, there are no restrictions that I could find anyway on what can be stored in these buildings or what types of vehicle traffic is allowed under special use. This would be a very bad precedent in my view for future applications. And the property, as it's been purchased, sold, and repurchased, and if I did my math right, at a big loss, has always been agricultural, and each attempted rezone was rejected either by the Board of Commissioners or by the Planning Commission. Now, as it's been said earlier, it's an attempt to circumvent that rezone process, which, as noted, has failed twice. And nothing has changed in the ensuing 11 years since the last one that makes our neighborhoods more suitable for industrial storage and warehouse placement. I would add that by removing the buffer between our neighborhood and what has become a major thoroughfare in the county, approval would damage the local environment with more noise, security lighting, and would disrupt wildlife habitat. All the things that enhance the quality of life in our homes.
That's your time, Mr. Thompson. Thank you.
I hope that you will reject it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken, you got 122.
Just a point of correction. The gentleman mentioned that there had not been an a special use analysis done, an impact analysis, and that document was prepared, it was uploaded, and it was reviewed by the planning staff. And it met the criteria on all counts that it would not impact the adjoining property owners. There were a couple of other people that spoke, and if allowed, they would still like to speak if I can let them use my time.
What's left now?
Whatever's left.
47 seconds.
47 seconds. Scott?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Scott Bear. I'm the owner of MSFC Custom. I live directly across from the proposed development. My family has been on that property for over probably 120 years. As a child, I grew up on the property, riding my four-wheeler all through what was Silverleaf. I mean, before it was Silverleaf. I know Tim, and I support what they're doing across there. I think we could end up with something much worse. that goes in there. So I drive out every day, right, looking at where the property will be. And I think it's going to be okay. So I am fully in support of the development. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. With that, we'll close public comments. Do we have any questions from commissioners?
I'll start. To Mr. Hare and Ken, if you want to respond after I ask him the question, you're welcome to do that. Thinking over this, and I've seen a lot of rezones over the years, but never seen one where they're using an ag classification to do special use. And the reason I bring that up is because we've tried, I think over the years that I've been on the board, to do what we could to protect neighborhoods from something that comes later. And this seems to be I don't want to use a football, but almost really an end run around the zoning. Because I think what would normally go there would be some type of OIP. Is that correct?
It would have to be rezoned to an OIP. Yes, sir.
Where you would have more of a business, whether it's like in what they do is medical building. Those would normally come under OIP.
OIP, yes, sir.
Right. So this, do you know, or can you remember when we've had a rezone like this, where if we stayed at the AG and we used special use to get something in?
The code does allow it in table 2.1 under the contractors with outdoor storage would be allowed as a special use.
Well, question is, do you recall us doing that?
Not that no.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Again, if you want to address that, it's fine.
Before we ever prepared any documents, we actually came and met with Mr. Herring. And we talked about, do we change the zoning or do we try to fit into the existing zone? The special use was a special use because it allows you to not have to rezone the property to one of the higher classifications of business use. That was the entire purpose why we did not attempt to change the zoning classification. And it is allowed as a special use if you can get special use approved. That's why we were required to submit all the documents that we did. So that's the best answer I can give.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. What would, Mr. Herring, what would happen or could something change? Let's say the owners, let's say we approved it, to build what they're going to build. What happens if they want to sell it? What kind of use could be in that 5 years down the road? Oh, hold it. Let me ask, y'all can talk later on, but let's keep that to minimum.
The special use zoning would apply to any future use. So they would be bound by this document, the narrative, the proposal.
Okay, but could the new owner do something different?
Not more intense, but they could do the same. They could use the warehouse space as proposed. They can use the outdoor storage as proposed.
That's all I got right this minute.
Mr. Herring, can you address there were two different ones that had mentioned something about the decel lane, Shami Jones, and I believe one other one had mentioned that. Can you address that? Decel lane, the entrance into that?
It would be required and it would be an extension.
Okay. So is there a conflict with the current decel lane?
No, sir.
Okay. And as far as this particular warehouse, is it allowed in the character area of this?
It is the comp plan in this area is regional center. And so it would support this proposed use.
Okay. And so as far as the special use, it is allowed by code, correct?
Yes, sir. Table 2.1 would allow for this request.
Okay. So in your opinion, have there been other special uses that have been approved?
There probably have. I'm not aware of any at the moment.
Also, there's been some concerns about lighting. Is outdoor lighting or building lighting required in this, on this site?
It's not required, but if there is proposed lighting, it would be restricted to down lighting. We have a portion of our UDC that addresses exterior lighting. So any building lights would be focused down, not out, no pack lights. And then any parking lot lighting would also be shielded and down. And then again, it can't exceed 1 foot candle at any property line or any right-of-way line.
Okay. All right. And in your opinion, Mr. Hayes had mentioned about the 1207. Did Mr. Bell comply with that?
They did. They submitted the analysis with the application. Yes, sir.
Okay. In your opinion, they were talking about flatbeds entering the site, and that could be interpreted many ways. Is that, you know, tractor trailer, or is that a flatbed pickup or whatever? But in your opinion, based on what you've been involved in with truck radiuses and things like that, will a tractor trailer be able to enter into this property?
I am not familiar with the radiuses since this hasn't been designed yet. The engineering has not been done on this project. This is conceptual. But I do believe they've stated that material will be dropped off. We just don't know in what form. So it could be anywhere from, as you say, a low boy being pulled with equipment, or a flatbed.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Hmm.
I'm going to ask Mr. Bell about that, if you don't mind. Mr. Bell, can you address that, please?
The reason why we designed the curvilinear access is specifically so that large trucks won't be coming in there. They won't attempt to come in there because they can see they can't maneuver to be able to turn around in there.
Mm-hmm. So just based on some of our other conversations, in order to have a tractor trailer in, say, a roundabout, it takes a 67 wheelbase, foot wheelbase design. Is this design anywhere close to that?
No. That would require a driveway to go straight from the entrance to the side of the building.
Okay.
And that's not what we drew.
Okay. And from what you've seen from the architectural submittals, is there any outdoor building lighting that would conflict with the neighbors?
No, and as the planning director said, we're bound to not be able to have more than 1 foot candle over any property line or any right-of-way line. And there's really no need to overlight that area. I mean, they're really not going to be storing anything out there. They're going to have it either in the walled area that's 12 feet tall in the back or in the building.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chair, you might be able to help me. What we're saying, what we're asking, what neighbors are saying, we're talking a lot about protecting the neighborhood, whether we say it or not. And that's the issue I've got, is not what the company does. I mean, I've been to believe me, the past 5 years, I've been through a lot of those medical buildings out in that area, but, the issue that I'm stuck with is the conformance with what they're talking about and being next to a neighborhood. That's the issue. And I've been, like I said, I've been around here a long time. And the general thing was to protect neighborhood. And so that's, I'm asking, warehouses may be permissible, some shape, form, or fashion in the book, but do we normally do that? Or is it mostly OIP?
Usually we have an OIP request when they're adjacent to a residential subdivision. But you'll see tonight that there are some subdivisions and later in some other cases there are some B1 rezonings that have taken place that are next to residential. We don't have many requests for a contractor's office. Those just don't happen very often, if ever. But the code does allow that request to come before you.
And that's up to us to go yay or nay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that's the issue that I have. Is that most of the cases I've seen, I have to say most because I can't pinpoint something. And I've lost some votes. I've been around enough to have lost. But the issue was to protect the neighborhoods from non-conforming. That's probably why you don't see a lot of them. You probably stop most of them. But anyway, that's all.
So the OIP would allow this building, just not the outdoor storage, correct?
That's correct. OIP would allow an office building. Yes, sir.
Office building, but is it warehouse?
No, sir. No warehouse, no outdoor storage. That's right. It's just office. That's correct.
Any other questions? Very good. I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion, Chairman, to deny special use P 25-0228 Oconee Medical Property LLC special use approval for contractor's office, showroom, warehouse, corporate area with limited outdoor storage within privacy fenced area, 5.014 acres, 1691 Jimmy Daniel Road, currently vacant.
Second. We have a motion and a second to deny special use request P 25-0228. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to rezone request P 25-0224. It's Living Faith Fellowship Incorporated. This is a rezone from OIP to R1. It's 1.51 acres at 8780 Macon Highway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Your next case is rezone P 25-0224 and SUP P 25-0288, Living Faith Fellowship, Inc., applicant and owner. This is parcel C03014A, currently zoned OIP in the Community Village Character Area. Again, the request for a P 25-0224 is to rezone a portion of the property from OIP to R1 to create a 1.51 acre lot. The remaining area for the OIP zone church property will be 6.67 acres. P 25-0228, the applicant is requesting a special use permit modification for permit P 20-0155 to remove the 1.51 acres from the permit area to create a separate R1 parcel. The remaining area of the special use for the community scale church will be 6.67 acres. This is a recorded plat in your application, the concept plan, a slightly larger version of the proposed 1.51 acre lot. Staff recommends conditional approval of P 250224 with our one standard condition. Number two, there shall be no cross access to the church parking areas with the proposed R1 lot. The plat shall indicate a 1 foot no access easement along the two sides of the proposed residential lot that border the OIP zone property. Staff also recommends conditional approval of P 250288 with the same conditions. The Planning Commission recommended approval with both cases with the same conditions. Thank you.
Ian?
Thank you. I'm Ken Bell, still. And we prepared the documents that you're going to be acting on. When Charlie Neely originally contacted me, he and the pastor just wanted to inquire if they could carve off a parcel of their acreage that's currently zoned OIP, where the pastorium is located, and sell that. And I said, yes, but we'll have to go through an R1 rezone request. And the minimum size acreage will have to be at least 1.5 acres. So they authorized me to prepare the plan and related documents, and we did, and submitted it. And then after they reviewed them, I got an email or a phone call from Guy or David that said, where is the OIP rezone? So I wasn't aware that we would have to also rezone, downsize basically is what amounts, because we were taking the 1.5 acre away from what was previously approved as a special use permit for the church. So I informed the pastor and Mr. Neely that we would have to do some more work to meet that requirement. So that's why we're here looking at these two items at the same time this evening. Really simply, it's just cutting off 1.5 acres that has to be rezoned to R1 to be able to be a single family residential structure instead of an institutional structure. And then I'll go ahead and talk about the other rezone. And that is really just because we're changing the size, and it was previously a special use permit. It still is a special use permit. So we have to meet all the bells and whistles of the special use requirements. It's just on a smaller parcel. No changes are taking place to any of the facilities that are church related. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak for the rezone or special use? Does anyone wish to speak against? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Mixon. I live at 1061 Ivywood Drive, which is right next to this parcel. The church parcel is there on the corner. I came to the previous meeting or whatever. I didn't understand or I didn't see a map where they're going to have the OIP in between the church property, which is the residential house on the corner, and my property. I don't understand why they don't go ahead and make it all residential. That's going to butt up to my property. So they're going to have a strip between the church parking lot all the way to Ivywood Drive. So we're going to have residential, OIP, and then residential again, instead of having all residential there on Ivywood Drive. That's the conflict I have, and I was never approached by the church about this as the owner next to it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against? With that, we'll close public comments. Any questions from commissioners?
God, just for the record, could you pull that up and kind of show it visually what the gentleman was referring to?
I believe he's talking about this strip, which is already zoned OIP currently. There's no change to that. It's been OIP since the church has had it. So there's no change to this portion of the property This is the piece that's getting cut out as R1.
Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? We'll entertain a motion for rezone request P 25-0224.
I'll make a motion, we approve rezone P 25-0224, Living Faith Fellowship Incorporated, rezone from OIP to R1, 1.51 acres, 8780 Macon Highway Commercial with the two conditions.
Second.
A motion second for approval of rezone P 25-0224 with two conditions. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we entertain a motion for special use.
I'll continue on with a motion to approve special use P 25-0288, Living Faith Fellowship Incorporated, modify the conditions of an existing special use approval, P 20-0155, 8.18 acres, 8780 Macon Highway with the two conditions.
Second.
We have a motion second for approval of special use P 25-0288 with two conditions. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we'll move on to special use P 25-0305, Andrew and Catlin Fields. This is a special use approval for a manufactured home on a second and temporary residence. It's 5 acres at 1202 Marshall Wilkes Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, special use P 25-0305, Andrew and Kaylin Fields, applicant owner. This is parcel C 07012HA, currently zoned AG in the agricultural preservation character area. And the request is to add a manufactured home as a second dwelling on the property that has an existing site-built single-family home. This is a recorded plat in your application packet. The proposed concept plan showing the location of the proposed accessory structure, architectural images, and staff recommends conditional approval with our one standard condition. Number two, the owner shall bring all structures into compliance prior to issuance of the building permit for the manufactured home. And the Planning Commission recommended approval with the same conditions. Thank you.
Mr. Fields?
Afternoon, everyone. So my wife and I are the property owners at 1202 Marshall Wilkes Road. We're intending on moving my mother-in-law onto the property as she approaches retirement. Just trying to make life a little better for her, downsize her house, and get her on the property with us. So that's it.
Anyone else wish to speak for the special use? Does anyone wish to speak against? With that, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Any questions from commissioners? We'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve special use P 25-0305 as presented with the two conditions.
I have a motion second to approve special use P 25-0305 with two conditions. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to variance P 25-0301 Hartfield Holdings LLC. This is request to allow a flat roof on a commercial building. It's 2 acres on Stonebridge Parkway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Variance P 25-0301, Hartfield Holdings LLC, applicant and owner. This is parcel B 06K011, currently zoned to B1, the Civic Center character area. And again, the request is special exception variance from UDC section 20509C3A. Special provisions applicable to the B1 zoning district to allow a flat roof instead of required gable or hip style roof with a minimum roof pitch of 6 to 12 or steeper. This is a recorded plat, your application packet, the concept plan showing the proposed location of the building, architectural renderings as submitted by the applicant, surrounding buildings, and staff recommends denial of the special exception variance request as the proposed building architecture is not in harmony with the all brick and hip roof style of Stonebridge Oaks or the adjacent residential structures within the Stonebridge PUD. However, if the board chooses to grant the variance, staff recommends our 3 standard conditions. Thank you.
All right, Zach?
right, so I am Zach Lester and the owner of Athens Micro, who wants to build that building there on Stonebridge Parkway. And so, we feel that a pitch roof of 6 by 12 would make like double the size of the building, because the height will be just about as high, because the building is 7,700 square feet. And so we think that it would obstruct views from the neighbors, and actually did some research. I called around some people I know. And so I reached out to Justin Woodall, who owns property right next door. And I showed him my plans, and he was in agreement. And he also emailed the commissioners this morning, I believe, given his he stands behind it. Also, Dutch Guest lives in the neighborhood right behind. And so I reached out to him as well, and showed him the plans. And he also had no problem with the different roof style. Late this afternoon, we did get an email from Mr. and Miss Farnell, who also live in the neighborhood directly behind us. And their concern was with the air conditioning noise and us blunting that in some way for them. And so I responded saying we would address that. And then right after that, we got an email. I got a phone call and an email from the head of the homeowners association, and he said they had discussed it in the homeowners association, and that there were a few concerns he listed, which were landscaping and drainage easement problems, things that would be in our site development plan that we plan to address, having just found out about their concerns today. And then they had a concern about increased traffic coming in and out, which we can also address. But no one has said anything about being concerned about the roof, other than the staff, about the change of the roof to a flat roof from a hip roof. So Athens Micro has been in Oconee County since 2000 and plan to stay. And this will be our first permanent home in the county. We've always rented. And so looking forward to building this building, and would hope that we could get your approval for this today. So, and I wanted to, I guess, give some time to my architect, Chris, who I think got some things to say.
Hi, I'm Chris Evans. I reside at 495 Holman Avenue in Athens. I'm with E+C Architecture. I'm here to help Zach at Athens Micro. As you guys know, it's Stonebridge Parkway. First, I'd like to thank staff and David for their time and effort in preparations of the report, as well as the opportunity to meet with Guy back in December to review the earlier visions of our project. The earlier conversations was generally helpful in shaping our approach today. We are requesting a variance to the roof form because the proposed design does not fully comply with the B1 zoning requirements. As written, the ordinance requires a minimum 612 pitch on a one-story building, allows a 20% flat parapet roof. It outlines architectural elements such as shingles, brick, recessed openings, etc. And I'll kind of come back to those later. While we are seeking this variance, the rest of the project fits in within the envelope and within the by right or by the ordinance. We fully recognize the intent behind the standards, and we understand the importance of maintaining consistency within the zoning framework. At the same time, we believe this request is both reasonable and context sensitive, particularly given the varied and inconsistent architecture patterns along Hog Mountain Road. Our goal is not to disregard the ordinance, but to work with its spirit while responding thoughtfully with design integrity. We also acknowledge the variance deviates from the PUD established more than 20 years ago. With that in mind, we have made deliberate effort to incorporate several core architectural requirements to fulfill the B1 zoning, such as a fully brick building, covered areas. There's 3 areas that are covered: porches and trellises, a recessed entrance, and a site plan that meets the buffering on the south side of the property with some additional plantings. While we respectfully disagree with the staff's one-sentence denial based on solely harmony of the PUD, we feel the report does not fully consider the broader architectural context of Hog Mountain Road or the general business district established in 1989. There are several examples of flat roof architecture styles along Hog Mountain Road heading towards Experience Station Road, including the grocery project approved by this commission in January. These precedents and demonstrates that the area is evolving and our request aligns with the evolution and recent approvals. I think I want to take a second and just kind of describe how we got to our design. I think that's important. So at its core, the building is designed to support an IT company. So maybe it needs to look a little on the IT side. Grounded by strong family-oriented values and a long-standing commitment to the community, the program is organized around three primary components that reflect the company's work and how it engages with others. First is the open space design. Am I able to see the plan? Can we? Yeah, how do I do that? So how do I? Yeah. Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was easy. 101 right there. Oh, yay. Yay. All right. Is there a pointer? Oh, maybe. Maybe. Do I see it? Oh, you see it. I see it. Okay. So the building is kind of designed about three things. And the first one is this kind of open area, which is, it's kind of the hub. And I'm going to be very humble about all of this, but that space is designed for every Friday, Zach and his team come together and they eat lunch and they play trivia. The second thing that is designed around is this server room, which is something that is intentional. It's meant to be visible. It's all glass. And the reason I'm sharing this stuff is because I think it's important to how we got to where we are in terms of size. And so this space is going to be something exposed to internally, something that Zach can use for educational, something that he's proud of, something that he's been working on for years. And the last thing, the building prioritizes the employees, providing function, welcoming spaces that allow them to continue serving the community as they have for the past 40 years. The layout supports efficiency, comfort, and longevity, reinforcing the company's role as a stable and responsible neighbor. Together, the program and circulation create a building that functions cohesively, much like a well-designed machine, with each component supporting the all. And the reason I say that is we have a 7,000 square foot building. And with that footprint, it complies with B1 zoning. We can do it by right. But where it kind of gets a little thick for us is if we begin to think about the minimum 612 pitch, we end up growing the building. So this building in the middle is what we're proposing. This is what we would do if there was kind of a hip roof. So we're trying to kind of protect we're trying to be a meaningful and visual and contextual impact on the surrounding neighborhood. We're trying to be sensitive to everybody. We're trying to bring the scale down so it's less impactful. This parapet here is about 18 feet, and this is right around 33 feet. We have studied several roof lines and consistently returned to the parapet flat as the most appropriate solution. The flat roof approach avoids the scale and reduces visual bulk and allows more transparency and an appropriately scaled presence on the site. This also allows us to put HVAC on top. We will do this behind the parapets. You won't see them. This will help with sound, and this also creates more space for landscaping. In closing, we respectfully ask the commission to consider the streetscape, all the surrounding buildings along Hog Mountain Road, and the overall scale of the proposed design. Our hope is that you will weigh these factors in as thoughtful as we have. Thank you, and I'm here for questions.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against? All right, with that, we'll close public comments. Any questions from commissioners?
I just had a couple of, those emails came in late, guys, so I didn't have a chance to harass you earlier. That came from concerned neighbors. One of the concerns was about the air-conditioned units on top. And I think that Zach had responded to the neighbor that they would take additional measures. Are you familiar with anything that they could do in addition to absorb the sound of those units?
I'm not, but I'm sure we can administer that through the building permit process.
So if we make that as a condition?
You certainly can, and the applicant has proffered it as well tonight as in writing.
Okay, I think that's important. Now, the other email from the homeowners association spoke about the buffer. I mean, it's going to be,
It's required, yes, sir.
a required buffer.
That's right. It's a requirement there of a 25-foot buffer, and they are going through the site development plan process now, and that is shown on those plans.
Okay. Now, they also mentioned the drainage issue. Are you familiar with what that?
There's an old drainage easement down through there that needs to be maintained. And so that'll be done also through that site development plan process.
All right, is that easement on their property or the
It is.
homeowner?
It's on
Okay,
their
so
property.
it'll be addressed.
Yes, sir.
So it doesn't have to have any extra conditions or anything to
No, sir.
address that?
We've got that one. Yes, sir.
Okay. And also, not address you specifically, Mr. Herring, but I know that, Chairman, didn't you respond to a concern about traffic that you were going to pursue getting that approved for radar detection?
Yes, we'll be placing our signs on and start getting the counts in our next resubmittal. We hadn't got our other one back that we submitted a few months ago. So once for our next submittal, we'll try to get that on there.
Okay, so that may address the other concern that people had about cut-through traffic. So seems like everybody's making these neighborhoods bypasses these days, don't they? Mr. Kuriak. All right, thank you.
Radar signs go up tomorrow.
Okay.
I think, on the air conditioning, it was addressed, the architect addressed that, with the units being on the roof, that it would be behind the parapet walls. And so it would mitigate the sound being on the roof.
That's
as opposed
correct.
to being on the ground.
But I understand, Mark, in my short reading of this gentleman that took effort this afternoon to cite Google, that there's additional measures that could be taken. So I agree with you. I don't think it'll be a problem, but just to address, make sure that it doesn't become a problem. So, so it doesn't sound travel up, but isn't that correct?
Well, you got the parapet walls that keep it from going out to the neighborhood. So it would only have to go up or be absorbed by the construction.
Okay. I just want to make sure that since that was a neighbor concern, that just that we addressed it.
Any other questions? We're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve variance P 25-0301 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve variance request P 25-0301 with 3 conditions. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to variance request P 25-0303, Thomas Partridge, Nancy Partridge, James Partridge, and Laura Partridge. This is a request to replace a guest house in the front yard rather than the side or rear. This is 2.5 acres at 1981 Barber Creek Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, again, this is variance P 25-0303, Tommy Partridge et al., applicant and owner. This is B 01001B, currently zoned AG in the suburban neighborhood character area. And again, the request is a special exception variance from the Unified Development Code section 35102C to place a guest house in the front yard rather than the rear or side yards. This is a recorded plat in your application packet. This is the concept plan, which shows the existing home or structure at this location. They're proposing a new and larger structure that would then cause the existing structure to be the accessory, and thus the need for the special exception variance for the front yard. This is architectural renderings with the application, and staff recommends approval with our 1 standard condition. Thank you.
We'll hear from the owner or the agent of the owner.
I'm Tommy Partridge, the owner. I'm just requesting to build a new house because I'm moving my in-laws up to move onto the property and just wanted to keep them next door to us. And that's it. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak for? Anyone wish to speak against? With that, we'll close public comment. Any questions from commissioners? We're ready for a motion.
Make a motion to approve variance P 250303, Thomas Partridge, Nancy Partridge, James Partridge, and Laura Partridge. Request to place a guest house in the front yard rather than the back, rear, or side yards. 2.5 acres, 1981 Barber Creek Road, residential with one condition.
All right, motion second to approve variance request P 250303 with one condition. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we'll move on to our second quarter financial update.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Fiscal year 26 financial update for second quarter presents financial information to you through December 31st, 2025. And will include discussions of the general fund, the county's main operating, the capital expenditures and projects, as well as sales tax information and our water resources, revenues, and expenses. Starting with the general fund, revenue collected through December 31st at 31 million, and that is 68.5% collected. Second quarter key revenues include our property tax collections, our insurance tax, as well as alcohol and business license fees. Looking at a more detailed level for our general fund, revenues by source. You can see our taxes, the key revenue for Oconee County at 71% collected. Collections again during second quarter include 92% of our real personal property taxes collected, 3.6 million in insurance premium tax as well. Those are one-time collections that you see during the second quarter, and of course our local option sales tax, which we continue to collect monthly throughout the year. Charges for services, licenses and permits, and fines and forfeitures are right at the 50% mark. Those are mostly fees that are collected on a monthly basis. Intergovernmental revenues at 94% includes our LMIG funding received in the first quarter. And lastly, I'll draw your attention to the investment income line item collected at 80%. We are starting to see those investment incomes reduce based on interest rate changes, but we are still on target to meet our current year budget and are making sure that we take a look at that while we prepare the FY27 budget. On the expenditure side, we are $20,276,000. Spent through December 31st at 43.17%. That is right at 52% on personnel and 42 and 38% on services and supplies, and 20% on capital outlays, which we'll take a more detailed look at. And breaking that down into department levels for you, I'm generally looking around that 50% spend mark and try to give you a brief explanation about anything that's significantly above or below that. So first line I come to is the finance line item at 37%. Just a reminder that that budget does include a debt service savings. So old paid off debt, we took the amount that would typically be paid out for that and placed it in finance so that we can do a year-end transfer over to our capital fund to fund capital projects. So that transaction will occur in the last quarter, and you will see that reflected then. And the district attorney at 6% does include a position in the budget that is also currently unfilled. So those percentages are lower due to those transactions not yet occurring. Right, and this is the second page of the departmental list. Public Works at 28%. Their operating budget does contain a large paving budget as of December the 31st, which had not started. That includes the LMIG paving project as well as LRA projects. So we received grant funds in previous year, but budgeted to spend those in the current year. And that includes the Union Church and High Shoals Roundabout, as well as the Astondale and Column Ferry Roundabout. I believe that in the third quarter, we'll see that that spending starts. Also looking down the list, we have public safety at 30%. There is a transfer at the end of the year to support our E911 fund. So that spending has not yet occurred. And within community development at 28%, that holds our debt service for our Costco and Caterpillar bonds, both of which still have principal payments remaining in the third quarter. An update on the capital spending budgeted from general fund. Changes since last quarter. The law enforcement and jail building improvements project is now in process, as well as the Veterans Park quad netting. And amended since last presented, we have Public Works' Union Church and North High Shoal Roundabout and Astondale Column Ferry Road Roundabout. This is the general fund portion funding those projects, which are those grant funds. It funds the construction of these. So the Union Church Roundabout construction is in process, while as of December 31st, the Astondale and Column Ferry Roundabout had not started yet. And vehicles also included in the general fund. We do have one change. The F-750 dump truck that was budgeted for has now been placed on order. Also of note, the law enforcement vehicles, while they were received, are still pending additional spending for the equipment that's not yet been placed on those vehicles. And leaving the general funds, looking at our capital fund budget, there isn't any change to report here from these budgeted items during the second quarter. So moving over to our local option sales tax, these are the taxes that go into the general fund for operational spending. At $3 million collected for second quarter, that's a 4.78% increase from prior quarter last year, same quarter last year, and 50% collected to budget. So right on target. Special purpose local option sales tax, which is in a capital fund specific for capital projects at $3.3 million, which is also a 4.78% increase over the same quarter last year, and 59% collected to budget. This, as a reminder, sales tax for SPLOST is budgeted to spending so that the budget is balanced. So that brings our percentage of collections higher, since that budget's a little bit lower than our local option sales tax number. In transportation special purpose local option sales tax at $3.1 million, a 5.25% increase over prior quarter last year, and right at 50% collected to budget as well. Some of those projects that we are budgeted for under SPLOST changes this quarter include one of the 3 fire tanker trucks planned. It's currently in process. And amended projects voted on for SPLOST include the Veterans Park protective netting for the multi-use fields and Central Schoolhouse rehabilitation planning, both of which are in process, and the Veterans Park gym floor replacement, which has not been started at this time. And T-SPLOST projects listed here. Column Ferry Astondale Roundabout was amended for. This is the supplement budget to the grant funding. It includes construction and preliminary services. So those preliminary services are in process, which is why this slide shows an in-process status as opposed to the general funds not started status. So preliminary started, paving to come. And lastly, we'll look at the enterprise fund for water resources. Revenues collected at $9 million, which is close to 36.5% of the budget. I do like to take a second here and note that their capital budgets and their operating budgets are all combined into one. So that amended revenue budget includes funding sources coming over from SPLOST and GFA reimbursements for capital projects. Those transfers have not occurred as of December 31st. So that adjusted percentage, if we're looking at only their operating revenue collections, is 56%, and their operating revenues are being collected as planned in the budget. Expenses spent are $6.3 million, 21.5%. If we look at that by classification, you can see that those operating categories are moving along. So we have personnel, purchase services and supplies all right around the 50% mark. Capital at 4% spent. Depreciation is a year-end transaction, and the debt services are paid based on our debt service schedules, so they don't quite follow the 50% at halfway through the year. And following up on the capital projects, and this is the items that were originally budgeted, all engineering services so that we could continue existing projects and start off new projects. And then we amended for the construction phases of those projects. So what is new here? It's been amended since last presentation. Starts with the Calls Creek construction for phase 3 at $7.4 million. Epps Bridge Parkway sewer collector, Daniels Bridge and Veterans Park lift station equipment, and the Veterans Park lift station upgrade, all of which are currently in process at this time. Okay, that concludes the update, and I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Melissa? Thank you. Next item is discuss and consider Georgia Department of Transportation Utility Aid MOU for State Route 53 at Ray's Church and Malcolm Bridge Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. As you know, during a lot of these intersection projects, including the roundabouts, we have a need to relocate some of our existing water lines. In this case, this is the proposed roundabout at State Route 53 and Ray's Church Road. We do have to relocate one with an estimate of $375,805. We reached out to GDOT and requested a utility aid, and we typically don't get this, but GDOT was good enough to agree to participate with the 25% reimbursement of our costs. The cost will be part of the June let that goes into the overall construction project. What I'm requesting tonight is an approval of this MOU to with GDOT for the 25% reimbursement. And then when we get the final cost after the let, we'll bring those final numbers back to you for final approval. Again, we're real appreciative of GDOT stepping up with an additional assistance on the utility relocate. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on this item? Do we have any public comment? Ready for a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the GDOT utility aid MOU for SR 53 Ray's Church, Malcolm Bridge Road as submitted.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is discuss and consider MOU with Oconee County Sheriff's Office for alcohol background checks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. You have before you a copy of the proposed MOU between the Sheriff's Office, which is the criminal justice agency, judicial agency, and Oconee County, which is a non-criminal JA. And this MOU is required for the GBI through our alcohol ordinance. So the county attorney and the sheriff's office have agreed to as to form, and the action before you this evening is to authorize chairman to execute. Thank you.
Any questions on this item?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'll just say, we already have an agreement in place that's almost identical to this, but the format wasn't exactly what the GBI wanted, so we put it in the format that they want.
Very good. Any public comment? All right, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the MOU for Oconee County Sheriff's Office alcohol background.
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We do need a short executive session for land acquisition and personnel.
Make a motion to go into executive session for land acquisition and personnel.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
We need a motion to go back in regular session.
Second.
A motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Saxon,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
we are adjourned.